Part 42. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 421. Johnny gently plucked the strings, and a stream of smooth notes floated out. The originally enthusiastic listeners quieted down in an instant, and the entire Luxembourg Park was silent, as if everyone had become blind and dumb for a moment. This is undoubtedly a super magical power. The main music master Sophie is in control of all the sounds of this large area. Ziwei opened the real magic eye. He instantly saw a dream-like scene. There were countless faint bubble-like colorless notes on the sky, absorbing all the noises, and 50,000 people's noisy occasions transformed into a place of silence. At this moment, only Johnny of the center of the venue can make his own voice. He sighs with a clear voice, "You will not be alone, give it to everyone." Ziwei was keenly aware of the changes that took place on Johnny. Compared to him on the wagon, the sound of Johnny himself has become much better, as the muddy mud has been purified into clear springs. This is essentially upgrade. Johnny sang a new song every day for so many days of performances. Every song he sang was sung by countless people. In just half a month, Paile's streets and lanes have begun to have a lot of people sang these popular catches of pop music. In the expectation of countless people, Johnny swayed the strings and began the great performance of this massively watched. "You Are Not Alone" is the golden song of Michael Jackson on the earth, representing the glory of an era. Another day passed. "I am still alone. How could this be? You are not by my side." Johnny perfectly interprets the charm of the clear, spring-like sound, and with this lyrical piece of music, instantly directs 50,000 listeners to a love story that brings warmth and strength to a bleak. In the real magical vision of Ziwei, every transparent note in the sky is filled with a touch of gold. These notes begin to tremble in the air, conveying the beauty of music to the ears of every listener. "You are not alone, I will always be with you. No matter what the end of the earth, you use it in my heart." It can be said that Johnny's singing is beyond the classics at the moment. After all, the bard's unique control over the songs has made him beyond the stars of the Star Ages, even though Ziwei is shocked by Johnny's stunning performance. A great show of perfect performance. When the song finally fell silent, Johnny's hand stopped playing the strings. He took a deep breath and sighed at the audience. The next moment, silence finally came to an end. Everyone was shocked by this great performance. At this moment, there was only a cheering voice, such as a landslide, such as a tsunami, which was unstoppable and swept across the Luxembourg Gardens. Several other contestants were completely shocked by the landslide and tsunami-like cheers. At this moment, they finally realized the huge gap between each other. Finally, the black drummer took the lead and the other people followed. Their applause was convincing, and Johnny's performance was truly beyond the level of all of them. After a long time, the boiling crowd finally calmed down, and Johnny was shocked by this horrible popularity. He barely maintained his demeanor, and did not let the smiling smile of the flower destroy the superstar style of this moment. Finally, I went to the judges' scoring session. Ziwei first gave the scoreboard of the 5-point voice, and Elena secondly followed, and the soprano singer followed. The remaining two people looked at each other and raised a 5-point nameplate. All 5 points. Johnny's performance won an unprecedented full score on the Midsummer Night Music Festival. Thank you for your support." Johnny's eyes became red. He continued to greet the judges and pay tribute to the audience. He just dreamed of becoming a bard, but did not expect it. The first glory in the past 100 years can be achieved at the Midsummer Night Music Festival, the highest music hall in the whole of the Orient continent. His dream is just a river, but he finally got a sea. At this moment, what he most wants to thank is the friend I met on the wagon, Master Sylvester Frost. It is the guitar and music that he gave to himself that completely changed his destiny. The audience cheered loudly, and many viewers shouted loudly, "One more, Johnny, another one, Johnny." At this moment, the stage of the final day of the Midsummer Night Music Festival has finally become the stage for Johnny, and everyone else is in the background. At this moment, Johnny got the idea communication of Sophie. He did not reject the enthusiasm of the audience. He sang the three most classically sung songs and opened the Midsummer Night Music Festival into his own concert. The 50,000 audiences all turned into Johnny's loyal fans. They did not consider the audience of the other 7 contestants, cheering for Johnny and celebrating his victory in the competition. Celebrate him as a shining superstar. After the 3 songs, everyone is still retaining Johnny to continue the show, but Johnny has retired with the guitar. In an instant, the entire Luxembourg Park has once again become a place of silence, and no one can make any sound. At this moment, the fragrance of a single rose suddenly filled around everyone, and the fragrance was so fragrant and refreshing. Someone found something, and the surprise pointed at the sky. All the listeners raised their heads and found a beautiful figure on the sky. Rose-like dress, faint white and delicate skin, perfect peerless appearance, the woman who appears above the sky is the first beauty of France, everyone's dream lover, Rose Duke Sophie Mathilde. She also holds a guitar, and the guitar is engraved with scattered rose petals, very delicate. At this moment, Sophie was amazing to the extreme. She sang the lips and began to sing. It was the classic song My Heart is Eternal. Her voice was very low, but it was clearly passed to everyone's ear, as if it was in the hearts of the audience. Everyone was staring at the beautiful woman above the sky, listening to her perfect voice to dump everyone. Above the sky, every note seems to be alive. The pale gold notes are filled with the power of Sophie, flying like an elf above the sky, enhancing the charm of music to the extreme. As the master of music, Sophie's interpretation is much stronger than Johnny's. At this moment, everyone has become a prisoner of music and singing, and they will remember this moment for the rest of their lives. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 422. With the full swing of Sophie's fire, all the audiences have deepened their impressions, and her admiration has reached a very high level. Obviously, Sufi, the master of music, is using this method to deepen his beliefs. Once the original contract is over, most of this group will become Sufi's devotees. With the final singer similar to the soprano, the whole song came to the most asterisk. Sophie perfectly showed the charm of this song, conquered all the audience. This moment she is the most shining star of the entire Luxembourg Park. Not only that, her songs drifted farther and farther, and the entire Parley people heard this dreamy song. They all put down what they were doing, standing quietly in the same place, receiving the baptism of magical music. The pale gold notes above the sky drifted away, like the spring rain, scattered into the entire city of Pi. The king who can accommodate 2 million people have dropped a musical rain. This is undoubtedly a miracle that belongs to music alone. It is the master of music, Sufi, who reveals his sacredness without any concealment. In the far-sided room of the Notre Dame de la Paix, the younger lady of the morning, Euclia, gently reached out and took the pale gold notes scattered from the sky through the entire hall. Sophie can be before the end of the original contract. It's really enviable to spread your faith without any scruples. Music is not a strong priest, even if she is the first to seal the gods. The upper limit is not high, Bishop Ansi said with relief. Because of this, no one will deliberately fight her. Even the Golden Lion family also adopts a default attitude towards her belief spread. But Eulizia, you are different from the Lord of Music. When the glory of the glorious Lord dissipates from the Orient world, you will become the only light in the dark world. The guardian of glory, the leader of glory, you carry the expectations and admiration of countless people, and in the near future, you will become the most powerful god. There will be a lot of dark mice that see me as the biggest enemy, Eulichia sneered. We are fearless, Eulizia, Bishop Anthas said firmly. Glory will shine forever, and darkness will be dispelled. When Sophie began her own singing, Johnny's craze was also dissipated. This midsummer night music festival ended in Sophie's Scorpio voice. After completing the final mission, Ziwei and Caillou said goodbye. It has been more than a month since leaving Violet Island. He has already turned his back on his heart and never wants to stay in Wangdu Pai Li. To the surprise of the card, Ziwei's side suddenly appeared a small and delicate brunette girl. She stood silently beside Ziwei's body and did not make any sound. However, Ziwei did not introduce it, and Xiao was not too curious to ask. Seeing that Ziwei was on the outskirts of Pai Li, the former Closer family territory, the station of the new Violet Chamber of Commerce launched a transmission spell to leave. Ka Miao looked at a folder that Ziwei handed to him, and smiled and floated on him. June face, it's really a problem. Sure enough, the next morning, Ka Miao was blocked outside the door of the Chamber of Commerce. Honor to the Lord of Music, I am very happy to meet you. Ziwei, Sophie in a rose dress is flying. He has left here and returned to Violet Island. Before the Duke of Roses was still not angry, the card was handed over to Sophie. This is what Mr. Ziwei entrusted me to hand over to you. Sophie opened the folder, which is a painting. In the center of the picture, above the night sky, surrounded by stars, a woman in a red dress is like a flower in the sky, and her beauty is so intoxicating. On the ground is a splendid stage and there are countless audiences who are fascinated by the glamour of the music. Starry sky, Sylvester Frost on the night of June 3rd, Miss Sophie, this is a note on the corner of the painting. Stars and singers. It's a really good name. Look at the face of this picture, I will forgive him for not leaving. This painting perfectly shows the amazing charm of Sophie that night, so the Duke of Rose the mood changed from cloudy to sunny. Mr. Ziwei also let me tell the Lord of Music, he always welcomes you to visit Violetburg, said Kay politely. That's good, tell Ziwei, I will start a tour around the whole of the mainland, and Violet is also my scheduled stop, Sophie said with a smile, remember to let Ziwei prepare for me. In the Palace of Versailles, Princess Lucia is talking privately with Queen Barbara. After the mother, the Royal Academy of Magic has an exchange program with the Violet College. I want to go to the Violet Academy for a one-year exchange, Princess Lucia took her mother's arm and whispered. Is it for Master Ziwei? Knowing female Emoruo Queen Barbara certainly knows the calculation of her daughter's heart. The Master Ziwei is indeed a good marriage contract, but I know the news. He has already had a marriage contract with Natalia of the Bonaparte family, that is, your cousin. It's just that there is a marriage contract, and there is no real marriage, Princess Lucia replied with a pout. Well, I will discuss with your father, it will be good to leave the king for a while. I heard that the scenery of Violet Island is very good, Queen Barbara sighed. Currently your father is married to you. I haven't made a decision yet, so you don't have a chance to fight for your happiness. Thank you, Mom. Princess Lucia got into the Queen's arms and said happily, I know that Mom is the best for me. Queen Barbara gently pushed on Lucia's head, you are 25, how is it like a child? I have already given birth to your two brothers at your age. Do people want to pursue their own happiness? Princess Lucia argued, I am not so lucky as a mother. You can marry a hero like the father of the world. The Master Ziwei is handsome and understanding, and the potential to be a legendary magician is already a very good marriage partner. I still want to fight for it. Mom will try to help you to do what you want. Queen Barbara took her only daughter into her arms. Most of the women of the Golden Lion family have become a tool for marriage. Many of them are not happy, but Lucia, my daughter, I hope that you can have a completely different fate from them, and marry a man who loves her like your aunt, Princess Olivia. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 423. Since Ziwei left Violet Island, Yang and Meryl have been stationed in the elemental holy land of the Smurfs. The speed of time here is 4 times that of the Orient Plain. For those who want to quickly improve their strength and catch up with the pace of the Westway Mentor, it is the best place to study magic to improve themselves. So in addition to dealing with the Violet Academy and teaching students, they spend most of their time here. A month has passed since the outside world, but the time of the Smurfs has been gone for 4 months. During these 4 months, both Yang and Meryl have already thoroughly understood all the main points of Elemental OI-72 speaking, and their magician rank has also risen to the peak of the 4-ring magician. Although I can improve the world by means of my own ability to understand the real way of the world, but because of the focus of the Westway Mentor, both of them are not eager to raise the ranks, but temporarily stay at this stage. The 2 men in the silver-lined blue robes have become the messengers of the Blue Great God Church, and their understanding of the elemental meaning is more than all the Smurfs. Because of his permanent presence in the Holy Land, Yang and Meryl often deal with these Smurfs. Although it is not clear why the Westway Masters will establish such a blue and beautiful church organization, they have not revealed their own identity and news from the mainland of Orient. Bishop Solomon certainly realized the particularity of the identity of Yang and Meryl. He was very respectful to the 2, and even often took out some elements to teach the 2 questions. Both Yang and Meryl can answer questions for him. Gradually, including the temple priests such as Aho, Red Fire, and Amon, they began to ask for teaching. Because Yang and Meryl respectively produced a set of Elemental OI-72 workbook and Elemental OI-72 speaking simulation test, and also taught this course to the magicians at the Violet Academy, so they also began to be blue. The priests of the Temple of God gave lectures, and gradually it became the true holy place in the minds of all the Smurfs. Hundreds of tribes across the plain, more than 1 million people of the Smurfs have all become believers in the Blue God, and the church has begun to control all authority as de facto rulers and managers. Both Yang and Meryl are aware of the great value of this plane. To know the Smurf race is a natural magical affinity race. After solving the problem of thin elements that affect all Smurf achievements, the Smurf's magic talent is inevitable to show that the flowers are expensive. And through the first screening, hundreds of young Smurfs in the temple priests, as geniuses in the Smurf race, they become the official magician with almost no difficulty. What a terrible potential for the million Smurfs. In the hall of the highest level of the Holy Land, just finished a lecture, dozens of trainee priests wearing blue and white robes fell back, leaving only 2 gods. Meryl stood up and stood by the window overlooking the calm elemental water below the elemental sanctuary. Yang, have you noticed that the Westway Mentor is taking a road that is completely different from any other magician? Meryl asked softly. The Westway Mentor is going to be the master of the magic field, watering the flowers of the arcane on the basis of magic. The arcane master is our future, Yang Shen said. The Westway Mentor is really a rare talent in the entire history of the Orient world for thousands of years. He is as dazzling as the stars in the sky, Meryl sighed. Yeah, it is our luck to be able to follow the Zaiwei tutor. He will lead us on a new and challenging road. I am looking forward to what will happen in the future. Legend is no longer the limit of the mentor, Yang responded Tao, as the level of the magician step by step, he can be more aware of how powerful the Westway Mentor is. Yeah, he is too shiny, Meryl's delicate face showed a bitter smile, he is too good, excellent to the extent that anyone can only look up. Yang was silent, and Meryl's feelings for Zaiwei were in his eyes. Sometimes I am really jealous of my sister. She looks very embarrassed, but her intuition is very keen. She always finds the best way in countless choices, Meryl continued. I and West Vigo first knew, but she eventually became the girlfriend of Zaiwei brother. Yang continued to be silent, and at this moment he could only silently be a listener. And Charlotte has to pay for it, but because of Natalia, I can only be a student of peace, Meryl chuckled. Yang, why have you not been looking for an object? You must know there are many lovely girls in the Violet Academy who admire you. Yang opened his own hand. The line of sight is on his palm. I really admire the Zaiwei instructor. In such a short time, he can take care of his own magic practice, construction school, and adventure. Can also develop a romantic relationship. For me, the practice of magic is the most important thing. The college affairs take up a lot of my time. I really don't have the energy to talk about love. Yang looked up at the blue sky. I really want to see you soon. What is the shining of the great arcanist in the mouth of the Westway mentor? You are right, Yang, as if inspired and motivated, strength and fighting spirit seemed to return to Meryl's body. The future of Ziwei's mentor is so bright and bright, we must strive to keep up with him. Make a more important contribution to the violet. I don't have to be in a hurry for this feeling. A magician, or a legendary magician, has a long enough time. Melil, your persistence and persistence are all in your eyes, Yang said comfortably. I believe that one day, your dream can become a reality. Thank you for your good words, Yang. I feel a lot better. All the pressures and fears vanished, and Meryl became so beautiful at this moment. Her face sparkled with sparkling light. Yang, what dreams do you have for the future? Meryl transferred the topic. If you want to say your dreams, I want to see the places where my ancestors once lived. The mainland of China is now blocked by the enchantment of the dragons and enchantments. No one can travel freely, Yang firmly said, and one day, I will set foot on the ancient continent to see what the weather in the Chinese mainland is. Your wishes will be realized, Meryl encouraged. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 424. There is a lively dinner in the middle of Violet Fort, and 4 women are enjoying dinner at the table. Charlotte, try this golden caviar. This is a rare specialty in the deep sea. I and Ilya are very fond of eating. I am coming back to enjoy it. Natalia used the spoon, scooped up a large spoonful of solidified gold caviar, which was placed in front of Charlotte's mouth. Charlotte had no choice but to open his mouth. Let Natalia put caviar in his mouth thoughtfully, smooth and smooth, full of fragrance. It is really a rare delicious. Little dwarf, I want to eat too. Yelia stood up high in her right hand and shouted with a dissatisfied voice. The washboard, do you really want to eat? Natalia had a playful smile on her face. Come for me. Looking at a bottle of gold caviar held by Natalia in her hand, Ilya's eyes were glaring, but she finally softened and whispered to Natalia, Natalia, I want to eat. What do you say? Listen, don't, see. Natalia held caviar in her left hand and attached her right hand behind her ear, saying loudly. Natalia's sister, beg you, people want to eat caviar. Green Dragon Girl Ilya lost all the exercises, pleading with a sweet, greasy voice. Natalia was in a spirit, and apparently she couldn't stand the stimulation of this sweetness. However, she still showed a bright smile, and satisfactorily handed a spoonful of gold caviar to the mouth of Ilya. The Green Dragon Girl rushed forward like a puppy, and swallowed the food in front of her eyes. For a moment, the spoon has been swallowed directly into the abdomen by Ilya and caviar, and Natalia stared at the silver handle in her hand. Oh, the Naga Queen Freya on the side gave a silver bell-like smile. My sister, if you like caviar, I will always give it to you. After a month of personal companionship, Natalia discovered an absolute weakness of Ilya: she is a standard foodie. I like all kinds of delicious things most, and my appetite is very big. I don't feel enough. Holding this fatal weakness, Natalia finally took the upper hand in the battle with Ilya, and this is only a month, and Ilya has basically been killed by Natalia. Natalia and Ilya traveled for a month in the deep sea plane. They went deep into the cold and ice, visited the beautiful chaotic sea, and even went to the southern Aegean Sea to find a deep sea nightmare, Ceres's lair, and then there was a battle with this 8th order magic creature. Naga's Grand Marshal's 8-armed Naga Felicel also did not escape this fate. It was almost a small game in 3 days. In 5 days, the first master of the Naga kingdom, Felicel, was finally allowed. I didn't go to bed at home, I just escaped the fate of the sparring. The battle between Natalia and Ilya was even more numerous. At the last moment, the two were still sisters, and the next moment became the enemy of life and death. In this one-month battle tour, one in time, the two have finally become loyal friends. The ordinary masters of the ranks are no longer the opponents of the two, and both Natalia and Ilya are no longer far away from the master's card. Natalia made a lot of efforts to keep Ilya completely inviolate, and now she is finally reaching this goal. The ignorant green dragon girl, Ilya, didn't realize Natalie's sinister intentions. She hadn't entered the puberty of the five-color dragon, and she is still at the end of her childhood. The adolescent five-color dragon will begin to awaken the desire for the opposite sex, especially the male dragon. At this stage, the wind will make waves, and many ethnic groups, including humans, will be the target of their hunting. Ziwei has left Violet for a month. I don't know when he will be back, Charlotte said with emotion. Oh, it must have been fascinated by the beauty of Wang Du Pai Li. Natalia was dissatisfied with a pouting, I don't even bring me. It's too meaningless. I heard parley there is a Duke of Rose, known as the first beauty in France, and people think about it when they think about it. Charlotte looked helpless at Natalia, I really don't know why Ziwei can tolerate you doing this. Natalia said proudly, this is exactly where I appreciate Ziwei most. He never blames me with a secular view. He is the one who knows me the most in the world. It is precisely because for this reason, I will be with him, otherwise I can't stand even a handsome man. I am very much looking forward to the Westway mentor to come back soon, but I have accumulated a lot of questions and I want to ask the Westway mentor. Freya looked forward to the look of the few words of effort, you actually wiped out such abundance of food. Natalia jerked her hand and grabbed the ignorant Elia. She had wiped out nearly half of the plates in a flash. Charlotte, you eat more, these foods are carefully cooked by me, helps to grow muscles and grudges, very helpful for your night practice. I want to be a master of magic, Charlotte said proudly, but her movements were not slow, and it accelerated the speed of eating. Forget it, your magical talent is really not good, Yang and my sister have already left you far behind, Natalia said mercilessly, but your night talent is very good, it is a born knight. Hey, there is Ziwei, I don't believe that I can't be a great magician, Charlotte proudly raised his high-pitched chest. Among the four, she undoubtedly had the most proud bust. Natalia's gaze was clearly attracted to this towering mountain, her eyes staring at Charlotte, not to say a word. Ilya took the opportunity to escape from the general mastery of Natalia's steel and continue her own food journey. Charlotte noticed Natalia's burning gaze, and her face turned red, and quickly turned her body and avoided Natalia. Well, I don't see it, I am a little faint. Natalia also quickly wiped out the food on the table. Why Ziwei and Zero are not coming back? Zero cooking is much more powerful than me. Really, Ilya, who looked at the rice, suddenly raised her head and her eyes sparkled. Of course. As long as you have eaten a meal, you won't want to go anymore, Charlotte quickly assisted, and she knew that Ziwei wanted to hire the high school magician of the Change School to be a professor at the Violet Academy. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 425. Who wants to go? At this moment, a tall figure walked in from the outside. It is the owner of Violet Fort, Ziwei. After 5 consecutive long-distance transmissions, Ziwei finally arrived at the Violet Fort and returned to his home for a month. Ziwei, Charlotte's excited tears filled the heart of Ziwei's embrace, and every time she was away from her, it was an unbearable torment. Natalia also showed a smile of joy, but she sat in her position safely, as elegant as a real hostess. Ms. Ilya is a foodie, and she likes to taste food. We are saying that if there is enough good food, she will be able to stay for her. Ziwei took off his coat. Although he had reached a consensus with the Change Master, Ilya would be the head of the Magician Guild in Violet, but it is obviously up to Ilya's own wishes. Okay, Let me show it. Wei turned and walked into the kitchen. Zero jumped out of his body, still the image of a blue cat. Zero, why are you still not willing to become humanoid? I originally intended to introduce it, Wei asked inexplicably. Still forget it? There is no need for this, Zero responded, skilled to start cooking and cooking. Well, everything goes with your wishes. Wei did not go deep into the idea of Zero, he respected the choice and freedom of Zero. One after another, the food that Ilya had never seen before, kept flying out of the kitchen and steadily fell on the table. Ilya was so excited that she was fully excited to destroy all the food that came up from the end. However, the food that flew out of the kitchen seemed to stop at all. Everything was completely different. After destroying more than 300 plates, Ilya finally fell to the ground and her stomach had become a perfect one. Spherical. Haha, Professor Zero has made meritorious deeds, so I should be able to get Elias, Natalia laughed proudly. Natalia, your credit is great, Wei enthusiastically embraced Natalia. You know it, Natalia said in disapproval, since I am back, you must comfort Zillet in Wei. During this time, she has been sleeping alone. I will put it tonight. Private space is left for you too. Thank you, Natalia, Charlotte showed a grateful look. Nothing, I have more important things to do, taming Ilya has reached the most critical moment, I want to hit the iron. Natalia walked into the castle with the green dragon girl supported by a stomach food. Floor room. Freya, about the blood experiment I mentioned, you are ready, the day after tomorrow we'll start to say good goddess. 11 Wei said to his third apostle, if there is any accumulation problem, I can talk to me the day after tomorrow. Okay, Wei instructor. It's late, I'm going to rest, I wish you a happy evening. Freya made a naughty face to Charlotte and also retired. Ziobi wins a new marriage. This night, Wei and Charlotte have very romantic memories. The next morning, Wei, who had finished the rest, bid farewell to Charlotte and entered the smooth plane. Wei mentor. Ziwij, Yang and Meryl greeted them one after the other, and they all had excited expressions on their faces. For those who stayed in the Smurfs, they were far away. It has been 4 months since I saw Wei last time. Very well, you have grown very fast during this time. Wei is very satisfied with the process of the two people. They are only able to enter the paradigm and finally have the last insight into the real world, and the accumulation is very rich, without any seedlings. Look, ready to take the last step. Yang and Meryl nodded excitedly at the same time. Next, the place I will take you to witness is the endless river of the soul, the mother river of the whole multifaceted plane, the ultimate destination of all life, the original origin of all souls. Now Wei's control over space has gone far beyond him. Through the dismantling and recombination of the death ceremony, he can now take other people directly to the endless river of silence. Yang and Meryl sat in the elemental sanctuary under the guidance of Wei and entered deep meditation. Wei sacrificed the ice blue liquid left by the legendary creature Royal Ice Guards collected after the royal battle of the royal battlefield. A precise passage to the endless river, only the passage through which the soul can pass was activated. West Vichy guarded the souls of Yang and Meryl, and invested in the temporary passage of this sacrifice. After a long walk through, he finally came to the shore of the endless river. The souls of Yang and Meryl are floating in the darkness of the endless river of the same river, and between them, the soul of Wei is shining like a real fantasy star. My soul is in the endless river of meditation and sublimation became a dream star treasure. The soul is very important to the magician, but the soul enters the endless river but it is a life of 9 dangerous. Wei used his mind to tell Yang and Meryl, on the magic road, if you don't have a firm belief, then don't set foot on the river of souls, stand on the bank of the river and feel calm. If you really know that you have the most firm belief, then you will venture into this endless stream of endless rivers and try the river. If you overcome yourself, you will be able to usher in the soul. If you fail, you will fail. Dissipate the soul and disappear from the world forever. 11 Wei's voice was very firm, and Yang and Meryl faced the choice that Zai Wei had. Of course, Zai Wei is not unprepared. Yang and Meryl are coming to this crisis. This is an adventure, but Zai Wei can pull them at the last critical juncture. Zai Wei, who has been sublimated into a dream star, has become a mother river for him, and he is free to wander in it without any danger. Yang and Meryl's souls smiled at each other. Just before the return of the West Wei mentor, they just strengthened their beliefs and decided to follow the footsteps of the West Wei mentor and move toward a strong and bright future. What are the fears of endless rivers? After Yang and Meryl first and foremost, the souls of the two began to slowly drift into the endless river of silence. At this moment, Zai Wei was engrossed in observing the performance of the two. Once there was any danger, he would do his utmost to save the souls of the two, but this would mean that the trial failed. And there is only one chance for the endless trial of the river, and as long as it fails for the first time, it will never succeed. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 426. After a long unmanned exploration, Zai Wei finally advanced to a degree that could guide the latecomers. Although he has not yet obtained the master's certificate, Zai Wei's understanding and mastery of magic, the understanding of the Orient world, has far exceeded the ordinary seven-ring magician. Zai Wei, who has almost all the school's spells, can now observe the magician's system from a higher angle. The whole magician's practice will eventually fall into the practice and evolution of the soul, spirit, heart, lake, and body. However, each school has its own emphasis, but there is no magic inheritance that develops simultaneously in these four directions at the same time. This is not to say that the magic of the world is too backward. The important reason is that no one can do this. Only Zai Wei has the help of Intelligent Core Zero, and has the knowledge and planning of high-rise buildings. When magic is gradually upgraded to the seventh ring or even higher, each spell is as complex as a book, and it takes a very long time to just use a spell and use it flexibly. And to go further on the level of the magician, the knowledge and rules that the magician needs to master are even larger, so the vast majority of magic masters are already white-haired old people. Even if someone happens to shorten a certain process on the magic road, it can only be classified as an adventure or a chance, but it is difficult to be emulated. What Zai Wei is doing now is to gradually determine these adventure-like improvements and become a trial that can cultivate truly achievable materials. The soul level is the core of the spirit, the heart lake, and the body. Therefore, the West River design of the river trial is also very valuable, but despite the difficulty of the Zai Wei's Guardian River trial, the difficulty has been greatly reduced. But the ability to pass this trial is also a real person with a firm belief and great ambition. 11 Wei is very familiar with the situation of the two de facto disciples, Yang and Meryl. They are also the only candidates among the students of Zai Wei who have a higher chance of trialing through the Styx. Watching the souls of Yang and Meryl are floating in the endless river of sorrow, the faint fire of the soul is dimly lit. Once the fire of the soul is extinguished, it means that the soul is completely dying. What makes Zai Wei happy is that the worst situation has not appeared. Although the souls of the two people have been trembled and steadily resisted, they have not broken down and completely fall into this mother river. I don't know how long it took. The fire of the pale yellow soul suddenly burned in the soul of Yang, and his soul suddenly floated from the endless river, and began the process of condensation and sublimation. The water of the Styx seems to have become boiling water, rolling and flying. Every drop of the water of the Styx is so heavy, I don't know how many souls that have fallen asleep after the disappearance of the origin tutor Sawadatsuna and Sawadatsuna. However, at this moment, the waters of these rivers have been turned into food. Under the continuous burning of the golden soul fire, Countless souls have been poured into the soul of Yang, and the process of sublimation has begun. Zai Wei opened the real magic eye, completely looked at the whole process and recorded it. This is a perfect material to help you understand the soul deeper. Before the soul of Yang's soul was condensed, Meryl's soul fire suddenly burned. The fire of her soul was pale blue, blue as ice, blue and blue. What does the difference in flame color mean? Zai Wei is immersed in contemplation, which is undoubtedly another new topic. It's been a long time, until the energy of the royal ice guards is about to dry up, the two souls are almost simultaneously formed in tandem, and the same glory shines. The impurities are refined, the source is sublimated, and the souls of Yang and Meryl are successfully condensed into souls, but they have not yet reached the level of Zai Wei's dream star. After all, Yang and Meryl are still young people who are less than 20 years old. They don't have the rich life and energy of Zai Wei. It is impossible for the soul to sublimate. It is impossible to successfully sublimate into a soul. It has been very successful to complete this meditation. The river was trialed. Gently wrap up a yellow and a green soul, and Zai Wei returned to the smooth plain along a temporary passage that was about to dissipate. Zai Wei mentor. Zai Weige, the two almost woke up at the same time, their eyes flashed a flash of light, belonging to the flash of the soul treasure. Very good, you have overcome the inner weakness, and refined and sublimated the soul. Zai Wei nodded to the two people with satisfaction. After this training, the body will be very scarce, and there will be a short time between your soul and the body. It doesn't fit, you need to meditate, wait until you get back to the best, come back to me. Okay, Zai Wei tutor, Yang and Meryl respectively retired and began to understand the gains and losses in this trial of the sticks. Zai Wei flew above the sky, overlooking the earth under his feet. This is the Smurf plane has completely fallen into his control. The millions of Smurfs have all become the devout followers of the Blue Big God, and they are completely under the rule of the temple. I am afraid that the followers of the music master Sophie are not as much as you, Zai Wei whispered to the black-haired girl around him. Zero used human transformation in front of Zai Wei, revealing a perfect and lovely form. She frowned and frowned. These believers are all loyal to the Blue God, that is, me. Then if Zai Wei you are interested in the future sealing God, I am afraid these believers are difficult to convert. Zai Wei gave a slight glimpse, and then smiled heartily. I don't know anything about the gods. The priesthood that every half-god can fight is corresponding to the source of his power. It is impossible to choose the priesthood at will. And although God can surpass the limits of mortals, it is caught in another kind of rules and rules. If there is no other way to go, I will not choose to seal the gods. Zero quietly watching the fascinating Zai Wei, with a gentle smile on her face. She has been with him for many years. But the value of the Smurfs is very large, even larger than the entire chaotic city and even Sicily. The Smurfs are more suitable for the magic industry workers than humans. This is the best magic industrial base, the position of this plane. The face is marked by me, I will build a magical industrial civilization here. Everyone thought that I only had one Violet Academy, but the Smurfs will be a truly great experiment I envisioned in the magical industrial civilization. In other words, this is called crossing the river by feeling the stones. So what do you want to do in the first step of Zai Wei? Asked with a smile. Of course it is a steam engine, Zai Wei waved his hand, this is the real epoch-making productivity representative. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 427. It has been half a year since the Blue Djinn Temple completely ruled the entire Smurf Plain and completely established the sacred glory of the blue sacredness among hundreds of tribes. During this period, in addition to vigorously promoting the planting of Qingguangmei, the temple has been focusing on two things under the arrangement of Zai Wei. One is to teach simple cultural knowledge such as Chinese and basic mathematics, one in all tribes. Select qualified young people to enter the temple to practice. There was no objection to these two things, but instead the full support of all the tribes. Because of the benefits of joining the temple, anyone can see it, especially after the representatives of the remote tribes visited the Sushan tribe and the Salt Lake tribe who believed in the Blue Buddha, and saw the advanced and powerful civilizations. It is the loss of the final resistance. On this day, the blue temple of the gods at the top of the snow-capped mountain suddenly glows, and the entire temple seems to be completely covered by a dreamlike blue light curtain. Even the Snow Mountain tribe at the foot of the mountain can be seen. Hundreds of priests and trainee priests in the temple fell to the ground and prayed prayerfully. Solomon, the chief archbishop of the Blue God Temple, is full of joy. This is the long-lost blue of the gods. I will build a new city in the heart of the earth, which will be the holy city of all the Smurfs. Solomon was shocked. He knew what it meant. Whether it was the temple of the snow-capped mountains or the elemental holy land of the northern abyss, it was not a dangerous place that the ordinary Smurfs could reach. It was too far away from the world. However, when the Holy Spirit is established, the faith of my Lord will be indestructible. With this in mind, Solomon bowed to the ground and listened calmly to the of the blue god. This so-called holy capital is naturally the center of magic industry in the Zaiwei plan. It will be a standard modern industrial city in the vision of Zaiwei. After 5 months of training, Zaiwei has obtained a batch of basic qualified primary magic industry workers. It is impossible for ordinary people to learn a language in 5 months. Segmentation line, not finished yet, will be modified later. Sorry for the inconvenience. 11 Wei is very familiar with the situation of the two de facto disciples, Yang and Meryl. They are also the only candidates among the students of Zaiwei who have a higher chance of trialing through the Styx. Watching the souls of Yang and Meryl are floating in the endless river of sorrow, the faint fire of the soul is dimly lit. Once the fire of the soul is extinguished, it means that the soul is completely dying. What makes Zaiwei happy is that the worst situation has not appeared. Although the souls of the two people have been trembled and resisted arduously, but they have not touched the collapse, they completely fall into this mother river and regret it. Wife, the president is away from love. I don't know how long it took. The fire of the pale yellow soul suddenly burned in the soul of Yang, and his soul suddenly floated from the endless river, and began the process of condensation and sublimation. The water of the Styx seems to have become boiling water, rolling and flying. Every drop of the water of the Styx is so heavy, I don't know how many souls are sleeping after the sinking. However, at this moment, the waters of these rivers have been turned into food. Under the continuous burning of the golden soul fire, countless souls have been poured into the soul of Yang, and the process of sublimation has begun. Zaiwei opened the real magic eye, completely looked at the whole process and recorded it. This is a perfect material to help you understand the soul deeper. Before the soul of Yang's soul was condensed, Meryl's soul fire suddenly burned. The fire of her soul was pale blue, blue as ice, blue and blue. What does the difference in flame color mean? Zaiwei is immersed in contemplation, which is undoubtedly another new topic. It's been a long time, until the energy of the royal ice guards is about to dry up. The two souls are almost simultaneously formed in tandem, and the same glory shines. The impurities are refined, the source is sublimated, and the souls of Yang and Meryl are successfully condensed into souls, but they have not yet reached the level of Zaiwei's dream star. After all, Yang and Meryl are still young people who are less than 20 years old. They don't have the rich life and energy of Zaiwei. It is impossible for the soul to sublimate. It is impossible to successfully sublimate into a soul. It has been very successful to complete this meditation. The river was trialed. Gently wrap up a yellow and a green soul, and Zaiwei returned to the smooth plain along a temporary passage that was about to dissipate. Zaiwei mentor. Zaiweige, the two almost woke up at the same time, their eyes flashed a flash of light, belonging to the flash of the soul treasure. Very good, you have overcome the inner weakness, and refined and sublimated the soul, Ziwei nodded to the two people with satisfaction. After this training the body will be very scarce, your soul and body there will be a short period of inconsistency between you, you need to meditate, and when you get back to the best, come back to me. Okay, Ziwei tutor, Yang and Meryl respectively retired and began to understand the gains and losses in this trial of the sticks. Ziwei flew above the sky and overlooked the earth under his feet. This is the Smurf plane, which has completely fallen into his control. The millions of Smurfs have all become the devout followers of the Blue Big God, and they are completely under the rule of the temple. I am afraid that the followers of the music master Sophie are not as much as you, Ziwei whispered to the black-haired girl around him. Zero used human transformation in front of Ziwei, revealing a perfect and lovely form. She frowned and frowned. These believers are all loyal to the Blue God, that is, me. Then if Ziwei you are interested in the future sealing God, I am afraid these believers are difficult to convert. Ziwei gave a slight glimpse, and then smiled heartily. I don't know anything about the gods. The priesthood that every half-god can fight is corresponding to the source of his power. It is impossible to choose the priesthood at will. And although God can surpass the limits of mortals, it is caught in another kind of rules and rules. If there is no other way to go, I will not choose to seal the gods. Zero quietly watching the fascinating Ziwei, with a gentle smile on her face, she has been with him for many years. But the value of the Smurfs is very large, even larger than the entire chaotic city and even Sicily. The Smurfs are more suitable for the magic industry workers than humans. This is the best magic industrial base, the position of this plane. The face is in the hands of me, I will build a magical industrial civilization here. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 428. Everyone likes to do something cool enough. There are many people who can eat a kind of food, and wearing beautiful clothes is a great enjoyment. Some people pursue beauty, and they like the kind of hormone-stimulating activities. Some people like to spend a lot of money, enjoy the envious eyes and humble compliments. Some people like to take power and manipulate others as a puppet to enjoy this feeling of controlling everything. Some people like to teach and educate people, preach and teach, and pass on their own theories. These are the most joyful things in life, and they are the things that almost everyone is pursuing. But for Ziwei, all of this is not as good as the real overturning of the sea. The challenge and enjoyment of mortal limits. Use magic to build a city. If the difficulty of building a violet castle is 1, then the difficulty that Ziwei is going to do now is 100. But the deeper the understanding of the mystery of the ether, the more insights into the essence of the world, the magic comes from the elements come from the ether. The ether is the source of the whole of the Orient world, the source of magic, the fifth element above the 4 basic elements. The completely etheric Ziwei maintains the etheric form floating above the sky for a long time. At this moment, the elements of the entire Smurf plane are connected by him. This is simply the power that God can have. It must be known that the area that magic can affect is limited. Even for large-scale strategic spells, the range of 7 ring masters can never affect more than 1 square kilometer. Ring legendary spells are also hard to exceed 100 square kilometers. However, now the entire Smurf plane is more than 100,000 square kilometers of sky. The earth and the ocean are completely connected with the ethereal Ziwei. With the lever of the etheric body, Ziwei can shake the elements of the entire Smurf plane to flow. This is such a wonderful experience. To do this, in addition to the strength of Ziwei, the more important thing is that the Smurf plane is a new plane. According to Ziwei's investigation, the entire Smurf plane exists for no more than 1,000 years, and then counts 4 times the speed of time. This small plane is simply a newborn baby compared with the whole multidimensional plane. So even if the total amount of elements in the entire Smurf plane is limited, just within the limits of the elements that can be shaken by Ziwei, if you want to manipulate the elements of the main material plane, unless you have the power of superpower. The of elements or the of magic. Initially controlling the elements of the entire smooth plane, the soul of Zaiwei is under tremendous pressure, like a child waving a hammer of hundreds of pounds. As long as there is a slight negligence, the huge elemental pressure can directly make him dream. The soul of the star array is destroyed. However, in the face of this tremendous pressure, the whole person of Zaiwei has become very happy. He really did this, which means that he can use the elements to make the elements in order to compile the element inscriptions in the process. The last time the avatar element entered the underground magical field, the main experiment of the etheric body, this time building the sacred capital, just to verify and improve the elemental inscription. Elemental Ups and Downs 72 includes the mysteries of almost all elemental schools, but it does not involve ether. This is a legacy of the collection of ancient elemental schools, but it is an ancient inheritance that has been surpassed by the times. Therefore, Zaiwei, who masters the mystery of the ether, will never allow himself to compile the inscriptions of the elements by means of the Elemental Olympiad 72. The more the study of the mystery of the ether is carried out, the more the essence of each element's inscription is closer to the recognition of the etheric elements by Zaiwei. No. Zaiwei has already preliminarily edited the inscriptions of the elements with reference to the structure of the hollow inscriptions in Grodik's void inheritance, but these inscriptions need to be verified and improved to be safely engraved in the soul. This is the final verification. Taking this step, Zaiwei's suppression of the master's certificate for a long time will gradually come to an end and will no longer be blocked. However, the accumulation of Zaiwei itself has reached a sufficient level, and he has had reasonable planning and arrangement for challenging the order of the master. Awakening of the rock, Zaiwei began to display the first high-order element inscription, which can be disassembled into 9 basic inscriptions and 3 intermediate inscriptions. Now that Zaiwei has completely become the etheric body, this is the realization of his heart lake, so the spell model floats directly above the sky, shining. When the inscription rock wakes up is fully functional, all the earth elements in the wilderness begin to glow with a fresh vitality, separated from the old organization and structure, and become an active and individual. The chief Archbishop Solomon and the priests of the temples were riding the breeze, and the sunflowers in the blue silk unique to the temple just arrived here. They could not see the colorless etheric body above the sky, saw the real miracle. In front of the board, there is no desert where any plants can survive. It suddenly turns into a mass of mud. The solid rock turns into stone mud, and the earth is in a depression, becoming a lake of stone. Solomon and all the priests of the temple stayed outside the sacred capital of the future, and they fell to the ground in a uniform manner, shouting in unison, like the Lord's blue big God. The priests of the temple are at least the level of the official magician. They can sense the boiling element between the heavens and the earth. This is obviously the handwriting of the blue big God. The sequence of rock, Zaiwei began to display the second high-order element inscription, which can also be dismantled. The 4 series of high-level inscriptions compiled by Zaiwei have 4 in each, and 4 in 4 series. Each high-order element inscription is equivalent to a 7-ring master-level spell. The corresponding inscriptions of the middle-order elements are 48, and the inscriptions of the first-order elements are as high as 1 or 4. This number is much more than the empty inscription. On the one hand, elemental spells are far more complicated than space spells. On the other hand, the ability of Zaiwei is far less than the second law Grodik. When Zaiwei is promoted to the legendary magician, all the inscriptions of the elements will eventually be sublimated into the 4 ultimate inscriptions, corresponding to the 4 basic elements of earth, fire, wind, and water. But now Zaiwei has not been able to complete the deduction of the ultimate element inscription, but this is enough. Engraved 16 inscriptions of high-order elements in the soul, he can be promoted to the element magic master. Under the influence of the rock sequence inscription, the lake of stone pulp began to have an orderly tremor, and the earth elements began to change from scattered irregular fluctuations into a uniform and orderly whole, and the changes of elements also began. affect the real changes in the world. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 429. The originally tumbling land began to stagnate, and the solid rock and soft soil were combined and gradually merged into a unified gray-white fluid. This area has a total of 100 square kilometers, which is the sacred capital of the Zaiwei plan. The area. 100 square kilometers of spell range, this is already the limit of the legendary 9-ring magic. Zaiwei can do this step by virtue of his dream star, the soul of the soul, by virtue of the elemental body that no one can do, by virtue of the addition of the etheric ball in the hand, by virtue of the perseverance of the extraordinary mortal and insist. The shaping of the rock, the third high-order element inscription began to show up. If the rock wake is the element that awakens the silence in the earth, the rock sequence turns the disorder into order, then the shaping of the rock is a more important part. The architectural planning of the entire sacred capital is mainly carried out at this stage. Throughout the process of casting, Zero has always helped Zaiwei observe the problems in the inscriptions of all elements. Although more than 90% of the elements inscribed by Zaiwei are very accurate and effective, there are less than 10% of the places that will be complicated. Omissions, and even conflicts. These places must be re-edited, otherwise at the moment of being placed in the soul, the future path of Zaiwei will be cast a shadow, and you want to modify the spells inscribed in the soul, but it will cost a lot of money. Zaiwei cherishes this opportunity very much, because if he is placed on the mainland of Orient, he must at least be a legendary magician to achieve the present level. But in the Smooth plane, Zaiwei temporarily steals the authority of the creator by virtue of the etheric body. He is mobilizing the elements of the entire plane, and at the same time carries out the deduction of the elemental inscription and the construction of the sacred capital. Throughout the process, the etheric consumption is very fast. If Zaiwei relies solely on the consumption of the etheric body, I am afraid that he will fail when he just made the rock sequence element inscription, but with the ether sphere it was also purely refined to the ultimate etheric supplement, and Zaiwei was able to continue. Once this experiment failed, the etheric essence of the entire Smooth plane was almost completely consumed by Zaiwei, and it would take at least a decade and 100 years to revert to today. He never again steals the sovereignty of creation. The opportunity to build the divine capital and infer the inscriptions of the elements. These high-order element inscriptions, if Zaiwei returns to the Orient experiment, the area that can be affected does not exceed 1 square kilometer, the magnification is not enough, and some subtle flaws cannot be discovered. It also reveals the mystery of the etheric body, which is what Westway tried to avoid. Now the elements needed for the spell come from the entire Smooth plane, acting on the sacred capital of the future of 100 square kilometers. At this moment, Zaiwei is almost equivalent to a true legendary magician. Under the full-scale cast of Zaiwei, a whole 100 square kilometers of orderly stone began to be shaped according to the planning and design drawings. A tall building rises from the ground, and the roads extend along the road, one by one. A factory. Solomon's heir has been shouting, "My lord's blue big god." What happened to him is a miracle that all the Smurfs cannot understand. A great city is appearing out of thin air. This is only the great blue big god. The sacredness that can be done. Everyone who witnessed the scene witnessed the belief in the blue big gods to the extreme, without any doubt or disrespect. The body of the etheric body of Zaiwei began to flicker, and the process of shaping the rock consumed the etheric essence of the body of Zaiwei at a great speed. Although these etheric essences only controlled the earth element casting in the plane, the speed of consumption was also extremely impressive. At the same time, the ethereal ball also continually transports the etheric essence to the etheric body of Zaiwei. This kind of feeling of slamming and slamming on one side is really uncomfortable. The soul of the wrong non-Zaiwei has been refined into a dream star, and his early soul is cracked and died in this way of trying to steal the sovereignty of creation. Such dramatic fluctuations between the heavens and the earth certainly attracted the attention of both Yang and Meryl. They used flying techniques to fly from the elemental Holy Land and stand on the sky to see what the Westway mentor is doing. God is a skill. Yang's face was full of excitement to the extreme, his eyes flashed through the dazzling light. This is the expression that the seeker will reveal when he sees the real road. The word Dao is naturally an exotic product for people on the mainland of Orient. It was brought from the state by the legendary monk. If you have to find a suitable word in the words of the mainland, then undoubtedly the law. The same is true of Meryl. They have completely mastered the content of elemental OI 72 speaking, and have mastered the old elemental school knowledge. Although the ether proposed by Zaiwei tutor is extremely respectful, I don't know how to get close and touch. But every spell that Zaiwei's mentor is currently using is an elemental inscription for recompilation. These most basic and most primitive spells, Solomon, these smurfs can't understand anything and can only be considered miracles. But in the eyes of Yang and Meryl, it is equivalent to the Creator personally demonstrating the Tao and the law in front of them. But the law is the supreme heaven and earth, and even the sanctuary can only master the field, affecting a region around itself, and the law is that the gods may not be able to get involved. Of course, even if Zaiwei has not yet come into contact with the law, he is merely an etheric mystery in his understanding of his own understanding. Yang and Meryl's move was naturally seen in the first place. This is a very rare opportunity for both of them. It is not only beneficial for them to have an insight into the real world's promotion of the magician, but even to the future master's certificate. It will also help. The sacred capital of the Zaiwei plan is not complicated. The center of the city is naturally the temple of the Blue Big God. The temple is surrounded by residential areas, commercial areas, and park greening. In the four corners of the holy city, it will be industrial, administrative, and educational areas. In the planning of Zaiwei, the religious center is in the Temple of Snow Mountain, and the arcane center is located in the Holy Land. The economic, cultural, administrative and industrial center is placed in the sacred capital. The land available for the entire Smoth Plain is less than 100,000 square kilometers, so it is not difficult to complete the entire plan. If the industrial scale continues to expand in the future, Zaiwei will also build several satellite cities around the holy city. The exploration of the entire plain has been completed, and in the place 50 kilometers south of the holy city, there is the largest high-quality iron ore in the entire plain. To be continued. Arcane Age. Author, Yulin Dudu. Chapter 430. However, since the Smoth Plain is a new plain, there is no coal mine or oil mine at all, so it is difficult for the Westway steam engine to be driven by these non-existent energy sources. Music novel. Not only the Smoth Plain, but also the coal mines and oil mines that have not been seen in the main material plane of the Orient continent. All fossil energy does not exist at all. Therefore, Zaiwei must combine magic and industry. Together, we can build a magical industrial civilization. In the eyes of everyone, there is a model of a metropolis in front of it. Although it is still gray stone, it can be seen that the beauty of the 7 or 8 points of these major buildings and the perfect plan of the entire sacred capital. Especially when Yang and Meryl are standing in the sky and looking down from the top, the visual impact is even stronger. After finally realizing the blueprint of the heart, the soul of Zaiwei was relaxed from the tight state. He directly began to display the fourth and last high-order earth element inscription, the silence of rock. This step is exactly the opposite of rock wake-up. If the active soil elements are once again silenced, then the main building of the whole city will change from an active and unstable state to a stable material structure, and it is still the most sophisticated without any omission. The overall structure. After the inscriptions of the 4 high-order elements belonging to the earth elements were completed, Zaiwei finally completed the construction of the main structure of the entire sacred capital. It can be said that the construction of the sacred capital has been completed 80%, and then only the subsidiary structure needs to be added. It is. Despite the ethereal quintessence of the etheric ball, the body of the etheric celestial body has become somewhat unstable due to violent changes, flashing above the sky. However, Zai strongly resisted the exhaustion from the soul and continued to verify and improve the three elements of fire, wind, and water. The high-order elemental inscriptions of the four elements of geothermal feng shui have similarities and very different differences. Each high-order element inscription perfectly fits the essence of the four basic elements. Zai has verified the high-level inscriptions of the water elements. In the process, the sacred capital has added rivers, fountains, lakes, soft mud land. The appearance of many buildings, including the shrine, has deposited a large amount of crystals of water. The crystals of this settled water show a brilliant blue color, which gives the dream a cool feeling in the sunshine. This sedimentation crystallization will be a natural, non-polluting coating that will not fade after prolonged storage. The sedimentation crystallization of the wind element is green, and the sedimentation crystallization of the fire element is red, and it also shows a change from light to dark depending on the element concentration. From this moment on, Zai began to carry out extremely delicate manipulations. Although the consumption of etheric essence in the body was greatly reduced, the demand for mental power began to increase substantially. If Zai was spiritually inherited from Devi, the brother of Marquis of Closel, it was obviously impossible to complete the work with his only short-skilled spirit, but now, Zai has become a city building. The planners began to awaken the Grey City into a dream city of 5 colors. This process is also the process of Zai verifying the inscriptions of wind, fire, and water. With the help of Zero, the whole 16 inscriptions of high-order elements, inscriptions of 48 intermediate elements and inscriptions of 4 or 4 basic elements are all corrected, all repetitions, errors, and conflicts were all improved, and the construction of the elemental inscriptions was completely completed. At the moment when the inscription of the element is completed, the perfect sacred capital is presented to everyone. At this moment no one will be attracted by its charm. All the sacred temple priests are led by the Archbishop of Solomon land, shouting holy sacred 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 glory. Even Yang and Meryl were shocked by the performance of the Westway Mentor. The Westway Mentor really completed a city of 100 square kilometers with magic construction in just a few magical hours. This is the great work that the legendary magician may not be able to do. In fact, Yang and Meryl are not clear that large and medium-sized planes exist in a large number of planes, and strong professionals are more likely to exert their power to the extreme. They can even steal as short as Zai. The authority of the Creator. But in the mainland of Orient, if you want to use one person to build a large city with magic, then only God can do it. Under the surface of the entire sacred capital, there is reserved space for renovation, sewers, and other municipalities and element pools for the magic plant. However, these subsidiary structures, Zai did not have time to do it. Zero gave Solomon another god, and a thick management book of the holy city appeared in the hands of Solomon out of thin air. Solomon was overjoyed. He looked at the completion of this sacred capital. He was still dizzy, but this holy capital management handbook has clearly selected how to select the citizens from the smurfs and how to manage this. The essentials of the city and the meticulous little things are all written in the book. He only needs to follow the of the blue in this scripture. After this was done, the body of the westward ether slammed again, and a light flashed across the sky, even in the daytime. At the moment when the etheric body dissipated, Zai and Zero perfectly matched, and the soul was transferred to his own flesh and blood. Some of the pale Westway was suspended above the sky because his soul had been under very heavy pressure during the spell-casting process, and the mental power had already been exhausted to near exhaustion. Not only that, the etheric essence in the etheric body has been consumed to the extent that it cannot be maintained, the etheric ball is almost exhausted, and the etheric essence of the entire smooth plane has been transformed into 4 basic elements in the process. It takes hundreds of years to reunite these etheric quintessences. But all this is worthwhile. The etheric consumption of the ether has been exchanged for a substantial increase in the concentration of the elements of the entire smooth plane. According to the calculation of Ziwei, the Smurfs are enough to practice high-level magic even if they do not leave this plane. The degree of the division and the establishment of the sacred capital means that the magic industrial base of Ziwei has been completed. Then only one magic factory needs to be built up, then the terrorist production capacity will be erupted. These production capacity will continue to be used by Ziwei in response to the coming Dark Age. More importantly, however, Ziwei finally completed the perfect inscription and completed all the inscriptions of the elements. He has done what he can do now. Although the elemental inscriptions of the performances are slightly more, the levels are progressive and distinct, and they can be freely split and combined, and almost all the elements of the elemental spells are included, and the mystery of the ether is also perfectly incorporated. It is no exaggeration to say that in the European Union, the entire elemental school has entered a new era from this moment. As long as Ziwei inscribed the elemental inscription into his soul, he can directly promote the elemental magic master, and will inevitably receive a very rich return from the master's certificate, and will go to the elementary school's legendary magician road in the future. It has also paved the way for countless solid foundations. As long as you follow this path, one day, Ziwei will be able to cooperate with the second law Void Traveler Grodic, the fifth law the Lord of Change Victor Hugo, and the seventh law with the title of the legendary magician. The Emperor Daedalus has become the most shining star and big man in the whole of the Orient continent, the legend of all the magicians admiring. However, Ziwei wants more, and the title legendary magician can no longer satisfy his ambition. He wants to accomplish the whole magic master. But the time left for him is not much. In the moment of the inscription of the element, although he has not engraved these elements in his soul, his heart lake is already undergoing subtle changes, and these are the elemental inscription is coordinated with the transformation. This process cannot be reversed, nor is it manipulated by Ziwei's will. According to the observation and analysis of Zero, at the latest after 7 days, it is the day when Ziwei is a master of elemental magic. Therefore, despite the exhaustion of the extreme, Ziwei only used a deep meditation to rest a magic. He once again launched the Star Shuttle back to the Violet Island. At this time, it was the early morning of the summer. Many students in the Violet College were rushing to their classrooms to attend classes. Dormitories, teaching buildings, libraries, restaurants, laboratories, and students were riding on the streets. Figure. The speed of the Windbane is not only beyond the strong zero-ring spell blast, but even more than a ring of soul, so not only the magic apprentices, even the magicians of the Violet Academy have chosen popular. The car is used as a means of transportation. In May, the Violet and Olivia re-elected a number of new students to Toulon and Marseille, and the number of students in the entire Violet Academy has exceeded 2,000. This is already a very large number. If you compare the number of students, the Violet Academy has become the first magic school in France. However, more than 90% of the students at the Violet Academy are only magic apprentices. These freshmen bring fresh vitality to the entire Violet Island. At the same time, the tutor resources of the Violet Academy have become very scarce. Yang and Merrill announced that they would choose a 30-person foundation from the new wizards to be prudent and patience. They will teach the basic courses for their schoolmates and they will also get a lot of money. The point of operation is paid as a lecture. Therefore, the selection of the lecturer became a fierce selection contest, and the 30 people who finally stood out were the most outstanding among the current Violet Academy magicians. Among the 30 new lecturers, the most dazzling is undoubtedly the genius girl Esmeralda. In the April apprenticeship contest, She still has only 16 standard magic, but in May she will be able to in the competition of the magician. Many brothers who are far older than her school are better. What's even more enviable is that Esmeralda is appreciated by Kristen, a professor of construction studies, who follows Christine's magic experiments and studies every day. In this way, Esmeralda's time has become so compact, she has to complete a lot of things such as teaching, learning, experimenting, meditation, etc., and the time spent with her brother Jude is very small. Seeing that my sister Esmeralda seems to have become more and more far away from the apostles who are the same as Ziwei's mentor, Jude also gave birth to a strong sense of crisis. He even went to the drama club, but the effect was less. Proudly, he is now a high-level magic apprentice and is very promising to be promoted to the official magician in the second half of the year. Since Professor Zero has been on leave for a while, this time the only courses taught by the Violet Academy for the magicians are Professor Morris, who is in charge of the summoning school, Professor Christine, who is in charge of the School of Construction, and Yang and Merrill, who are responsible for the elemental school. Instructor. Among them, the nature of the selection element school occupies the vast majority, and the summoning school is not too small, most of which are magicians who have some defects in elemental affinity. But only the students of Professor Kristen, who are in the School of Construction, are so rare. Although Professor Christine himself is a beautiful woman who has fallen into the country, every time she comes to her class, there are few people, very few people, can persist for a long time. This is because in the junior magician stage, the magic of the construction school is too boring, and there is no big use. When the elementary school's magician mastered the hot ice arrow and the protective school's magician mastered the mage armor, the construction school could only learn the metal hardening and metal softening spells. Novelmtal.com. It seems that the mighty tall, cool and incomparable construction machinery can only be obtained by the high-level magician stage, which makes countless people disappointed. So until now, Professor Morris has enrolled more than 10 disciples, most of whom are night elves who have been shown the magical moon blessings similar to human deformation effects by the dark elves high priest Blacktail, Professor Christine here. I have not recruited even one disciple. Disciples are beyond the teacher-student relationship, and further tutor and disciple relations, similar to 11 Wei and his apostles. But when Esmeralda was promoted to the magician, Christine seemed to finally find a material that she could make. She began to cultivate Esmeralda, even though she had found that Esmeralda seemed more suitable. The magician of the summoning school. On the morning of the day, when Christine was teaching Sesmerilla alone, an uninvited guest broke into Christine's lab. Ziwei. Ziwei mentor, Christine and Esmeralda made a sound at the same time, with a surprise expression on their faces. To be continued.